Hello, friends, and welcome back to Erico Blueberry, an unassuming Destiny podcast. We are now 3 resets away from the Witch Queen dropping. I think that's right. Anyway, my name is chillybin.
Meckii.
Nice, real high energy intro. You've got some new hair and some new friends this week.
Yeah. Other than the hair, just don't mind me. I'm 30. I'm having a crisis. I'll get one of them out. My dream of being a mother has been fulfilled.
One way or another, you got there.
We joked earlier in the podcast lifespan that I kept telling people that I would tell everyone that I wanted one of these. And I don't know how much you can see, but I'll move.
There are 3 of them.
I ended up with 3 because Chili, Alex, and I think we've mentioned him by name before, Gramps, gifted me with some beautiful boys.
Yes.
I might have teared up a bit.
We did kind of like bombard you with a video call of like, you need to now open this box in front of the 3 of us.
The box sat in my house for a week, and when it arrived, I said, "Hey, was this you by any chance?" And Gramps responded in all capital letters, "You're not allowed to open this until the 31st.
Yeah.
And then
I'm
very
pretty sure,
quickly,
like, you brought it up on the last episode and I played dumb about it.
Yeah, you bitch. Yeah, because until I opened them, Gramps was acting like it was a him thing. He didn't let me know it was from all 3 of you. He sprung that on me
he's
as
good
well.
Like that.
So I have 3 beautiful boys now.
Mm-hmm.
I think, what did we have? Mixney, Lewixney, and wasn't it Elixney as well? But that was kind of close to Elixney.
Yeah, we just like made up some random Elixney sounding names for them.
But they're great. I sent a picture of them to both my parents just to be like, I'm a mother now. But I didn't send the picture. I just sent a picture and I said, "Hey, Mum, I have something to tell you."
Oh, no.
I'm a mother now. And she just sent back question mark after question mark after question mark.
Prove it.
And then I think she was expecting a pregnancy test. And then I sent her a picture of them tucked into my chair and she went, "Oh, very cute. You got some owls."
No.
Just your typical non-gamer mum.
Yeah. I mean, when they first dropped, I remember you saying something like, "I'm going to tell everyone in my life I want one in the hopes that everyone gets me one." And that,
Yeah.
I mean, that partially came true.
It did. Look, I opened the box and I saw 1, and I think my words were 1, 2, 3 triplets.
I think your first words were, "Oh, a boy."
Yeah.
It's very fun.
Yes, I'm very grateful. They live in my chair. I've had many of a business call at work to date with them tucked into my chair. A coworker didn't say anything out loud, but they sent me a text message that said, "What the fuck is behind your head?"
Why are the eyes glowing in the dark?
So all I did was reply with the trailer, and he goes, "Of course it's fucking Destiny 2 related." Because he tunes into my streams, but he's not a Destiny 2 fan, so he was like, "Oh, I see
understands
now."
the brand. I can respect that. Yes. Anyway, speaking of Destiny things,
big week for me. Became a mother. Bigger week for Bungie.
Fucking 3 point whatever billion dollars. It's a big week for all things Destiny. We're going to kind of run through these in the order in which they happened, which started to feel crazy by the end of the week because
this week gained so much momentum.
Well, look, there was like the Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard thing for just under $69 billion. And then like off the back of that, Sony is like, "Oh, we're also buying Bungie, but it's more like 3.6 billion, I think." I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it was something like that. And I'm like, "Oh, that's cute." And there was a thing I saw later before we get into kind of the announcement side of things where part of that was like 1.2 billion dedicated towards retaining key staff, which with the size of their studio, if you average it out on like a per head basis, it's a pretty big amount of money. But it just shows where the investment is kind of going. Bungie's funny they originally, I'm pretty sure they were like originally independent, and then they got contracted to make Halo for the Mac, and then Microsoft were like, fuck that, put that on the Xbox, and also we're buying you. And then they got out of that somehow after the Halo stuff wrapped up. And then Activision had them for a bit, and then they were like, fuck this, we're out, bought their own independence essentially, and now they're joining Sony.
Which, I mean, to me, to be honest with you, as a D1 player, was kind of serendipitous for me. Because, like, I have a D1 PlayStation 4 console.
So do I, with like is it the one with like the gold artwork on it?
Yeah, like the world,
Guardian
it was almost
crest.
like the world map. It's got like the traveler in the middle. I might have a different version, but it's like an icy white. Mine's in storage. Another show and tell episode.
This one.
Yeah, that bad boy. And then I remember like PAXs in Australia where for 1 year Destiny was the Sony booth, and then it was the Xbox booth after. I think for D2 it was the Xbox booth.
They had PlayStation exclusive items and strikes early in D1, I think.
Yeah, so like I understand why a lot of newer players are confused, but for me it kind of feels like it came full circle.
Yeah, well,
with the birth of Destiny, and now with Destiny 2 and the way it's going to be acquired by Sony.
And I think, like, I understand why people had an initial reaction of like, oh no, exclusives are coming back with Destiny, because they used to do that with Sony. But now we're at a point where Destiny's done this huge amount of investment into crossplay, and they're on all these different platforms.
It'd be stupid to suddenly go back to.
Yeah, and it's interesting looking at the language they're using talking about this deal, because they're talking about it more in terms of a partnership. It's not necessarily an acquisition, even though on paper it is. But a lot of Bungie's language is about like, no, we're still independent. We're not technically independent, but like they have creative control. They're able to stay true to this like self-published multi-platform deal. They seem to be drilling down on nothing's changing as far as Destiny is concerned, and the way that you play it. Just got a little
bit more money.
Yeah, like a few $1 billion will certainly help as they try to like expand, because it's not just for Destiny. Bear in mind they are working on
another game.
Well, sort of announced. I think they've said it's called like Matter or something. Anyway, they work on other IPs, so it's not just for Destiny. But having seen statements from like, industry analysts that look at these sorts of things, this largely seems to be a play because Sony wants to enter that games as a service, subscription, live service game, whatever you want to call it, space, because they don't really have one, right? Like Microsoft's got Game Pass, they've got all these different games in there, they're clipping the ticket at so many points, but Sony just doesn't know how to build these type of games. Bungie are very fucking good at it, which is why I think that, $1.2 billion to retain staff is really interesting, because they want to learn, they want to like understand how Bungie does this, build one themselves. They've got all these really high caliber internal studios, but they're more like, Uncharted and Insomniac with the Spider-Man game. Like it's all those really top tier single player kind of experiences. They don't really have something like a Destiny. So yeah, it's very fresh. Obviously there's a lot that remains to be seen, but I don't want to say cautiously optimistic, but I am optimistic about where this leaves them.
Yeah, I mean, to me, a lot of people, I think they just saw the tweet, Sony acquires Bungie for blah, 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 and then just made assumptions. But as that tweet kind of dropped, it was by a third party, it wasn't by either party. Bungie and Sony were very quick to drop links and be like, look, this has been in the works for a while and nothing's changing.
Yeah.
We're just kind of developing a partnership, like a back and forth.
Yeah.
Where Sony's and then PlayStation's going to benefit and Bungie is going to benefit. This is going to be a back and forth.
Yeah. Like obviously Sony is able to make some money off Bungie's properties because that's how this shit works. But they also it's also a trade, right? Like they get to learn how to make these type of games themselves. Bungie gets access to like Sony's music, TV, movie publishing abilities.
Also, their production studios. Sony has some of the most amazing motion capture studios.
Yeah. They've got resources.
Imagine cutscenes that have proper motion capture. Like people forget that Sony helped Kojima establish his motion capture studio.
Yeah, right.
And like even if you don't like Death Stranding, you've got to admit that is a very pretty game.
That's a whole Norman Reedus.
That the faces and the facial animation is incredible.
Yeah.
And now Bungie has access to not only that for film and TV, they also have access to that now for their own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm incredibly curious to see what this leads to. But also, you know, like Bungie has been hitting their stride in terms of like what they're able to do with the resources they had. The storytelling's getting really fucking good, but also knowing, like reading posts from devs that worked on like the Shattered Realm stuff that was kind of thrown together really fucking quickly. And like, it's good. But then imagine what stuff like that looks like when you've got a couple $1 billion to fuck around with, you know, or you've got extra people to help work
I was
on
going
the
to
stuff.
say the resources. So I won't say who, obviously, because I don't want to like dox them. Breach any NDA they might have signed. Yeah. But I have a friend who works for Sony as a developer, and for the last 4 years, his job has been go over there and help with that thing. That thing needs animators. That need thing. He does not the wiring, but he builds the netting that textures basically get. He helps animate. He does like it's in stop motion as well. The puppets, basically.
Right.
Armatures.
Yeah.
So imagine like the digital version of an armature. He does a lot of that kind of programming and developing. And he basically just, Sony goes, hey, yo, this one of our studios needs help with Spider-Man. Go over there. You're a contractor there.
Yeah.
Oh, Naughty Dog needs help with this. Head over. Like that's basically his job. So imagine having that kind of workforce. Bungie goes, hey, yo, we're having this issue with this one thing. Sony can go, well, we have a team. So like we'll send a bunch of our employees over who have dealt with this kind of thing before.
Yeah, and also like the reason Bungie's so good at the moment and has been for the last, you know, a few months, last couple of seasons, whatever you want to look at, is because they've worked on issues they had with their tools and their processes for building things, and they've started to craft that bigger narrative and take those big steps. And yeah, again, imagine that kind of work with more resources, right? Like I remember reading posts about why updating even like a map was so difficult. Like even moving some barrels on a map was really difficult because they had to do like these massive render passes and it would take fucking forever. And that's just to move an on-screen like cosmetic item a little bit. They had to rebuild the entire thing. And, you know, over the years they've improved that, but it's taken them a long time. And that's why things like, you know, some of the changes we're going to talk about that came out in the TWAB today, that are coming with Witch Queen, like some of that stuff could never have happened if they didn't invest the time to fix those issues that they had in their engines, or the limitations that were just present because of how they built it a couple of years ago. All those sorts of issues get resolved faster if you're able to say, hey, Sony has this team that know how to solve this kind of problem, and all they do is move between studios and teams and help them with that kind of shit.
Yeah. And I think in return along that line, Bungie's anti-crunch culture is also going to be very good for Sony too. Their strong anti-crunch culture. Yeah. And then also the way, you know, we spoke about it, it was a very hard episode, the controversy that came up. I think the way Bungie approached that and handled that, and even before it came out that was a thing, they recognized it.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of attitude being shared with a larger corporation could also be very healthy.
Yeah.
too, just on a kind of emotional level. I think Bungie is probably going to have a really positive influence in a lot of areas that people don't realize.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there was also like the very hipfire shit take of like, oh, this is just a response to Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard. It's like, motherfucker, this kind of deal does not get worked out in 2 weeks.
I think you might have seen
know?
my reply tweet to someone who was just like, I was just like, these kind of contracts, like,
This is months in the works.
And I don't even work on a gaming level. I work on a building contracts for content creators. Huge agreements and huge sponsorships and MCN buyouts and stuff like that. But the MCN buyout that I was involved in recently, just on a very minimal level, that's been 2 years in negotiation.
Yeah.
And that was before the finalized contract went through. Could you imagine how many revised contracts went through?
Yeah.
Can you imagine how hard like Sony probably had to wine and dine Bungie to make them comfortable enough to approach the
Yeah.
It's not like a 2-day thing. It takes 90 days to get a corporate contract approved in some cases.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I've worked at software companies for the last 10 years, granted, none of them on this kind of scale. But even then, I've worked at places that have acquired other companies, and I've been involved in discussions pre-acquisition to assess the technology and make sure it's sound and it's what they say it is. And that is sometimes, months to a year in advance of even that level of acquisition, let alone $3.6 billion. Or I'm pretty sure that number's right. But anyway, it's a lot of money. It's not something you whip up in a couple of weeks. The shit does not just appear and you can write a check for that much or whatever it is.
It's also like, it's so wild. It's just, I know we're a super positive like people, but the people using this to fucking fuel their console war narrative, you're a bunch of dinks. Like, you're the biggest dinguses I've ever seen. Like, do you realize how just fucking like dry you look? Like, you're just the biggest dinks. Like, I can tell you right now, as a woman, if I see a man engaging in console war conversation on social media, just
goodbye.
Go away. Yeah. Like,
it's a
I've deleted people on Tinder and Hinge because they're like, "What do you play?" I'm like, "PC," and they're like, "Oh, Xbox." I'm like, goodbye.
We've all bought different boxes to play video games. This is ridiculous as an argument.
Just let me shoot shit on a screen. Like, go away.
Yeah. Also, it's crossplay. Fuck off.
Yeah, like, just this weird console war.
Spicy.
But it's just this weird console war narrative that popped back up, and I'm seeing whole ass grown ass fucking adults doing it. And I'm like, you are 42 with 3 kids. Go home.
Why are you cheerleading for capitalism? Get out of here.
Go home.
Oh man.
You should be playing with your kids, not arguing about fucking Xbox and PlayStation on Facebook.
I thought we were done with this shit. Anyway, let's get the show back on track.
It's just one of those aspects of the acquisition that I just cackled at every time I saw it show up. Like, you dork. You absolute fucking dork.
My mute and block finger has been getting a fucking workout this week. Goodbye.
Like, we sound a little bit toxic and a little bit salty, but like, you have to laugh at the dumb parts of the gaming community, otherwise you cry.
Yeah, or I want to stop being a part of it, and I've had too many good things come from being a part of it, so no thanks.
You're a bunch of adults sitting there arguing on Twitter about a box that goes brrr and makes things move. Like, grow up. Get out.
Oh my god. Bright lights, big sounds, argue about who does it better.
Fucking deep, homie.
Okay, we've got that out of our systems. There's not really much else to say about the acquisition other than we'll see what happens.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and it's going to be a while before we even see anything that is a like result of this, right? Like, they've been working on the next season 16, for a while. They've probably worked on stuff that leads up to including Lightfall, the next expansion, before the acquisition. So we're not really going to see anything.
For
a
all
bit.
we know now, too, Lightfall just got a huge budget injection. For all we know.
And they've got time to, put those resources into it, but a lot of the big decisions are already made at this point. Other than, we can now move some of these timelines up on like engine improvements and, super class reworks and whatever else they're planning to
Bug
get to
fixes
eventually.
now get more money too and more hands, which is great.
Maybe Telesto finally
no
gets solved.
The acquisition has made Telesto too powerful.
Somehow it's hacked the transaction and just stolen all the money.
Telesto will just out of spite break further.
Yeah.
It's going to start invading Sony games and breaking them.
Oh, okay. I've got a whole line of jokes that I'm going to avoid because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Cool. Acquisition. Done. Let's put that one in the bookshelf. We've talked about that. Next kind of thing that came out was a little weapons trailer. Well, weapons and gear trailer, because there was some armor stuff in there. And this is where I need to scroll down to my massive wall of notes that I dumped in here about an hour and a half ago, because I was just like, oh shit, I meant to do this yesterday.
Before we get into the nitty gritty though, I will say one thing about the trailer. I have been seeing a lot of people who are quote unquote, I wouldn't say no names, but they're not the recognized names at Bungie. They're the sound developers, they're the set piece builders, stuff like that.
Yep.
Who are retweeting the trailer and saying, I did this noise, I made that piece of the gun rotate.
I did that animation,
This week, or like one woman was like, I designed the textures on the Warlock robe. Like I was in charge of designing all the textures and making sure they felt real. And I was like, follow. So now I follow a bunch of cuties from Bungie that are doing fantastic things. That was a really positive thing that came out of the trailer.
Yeah, because like I get that vibe, like again, working in software companies, but also being like one person in a giant company, it can be hard to feel that your individual work is actually like having an impact at times. But this is like, I did that animation, and everyone's like, yo, that looks sick as shit. And it's like, yeah, that was me. I did this. That's cool for them. I like that.
Like the guy who was like, I made the sound of them putting the gun on the table. And I'm like, I love you.
Yes. Yeah.
I love your work.
That little texture that looks all shimmery. I like it. Follow, like, subscribe, whatever.
Yeah, I followed another woman who was like, hi, I did the UI for the relic. And I was like, bitch, that is a clean UI from what I've seen. You are getting followed.
Yeah, that kind of UI design is hard. For a brand new system. Oof. Okay.
I love it. More Bungie people should tweet and say what they do.
They should do that. In terms of the meat and potatoes that's in the trailer, you've seen the trailer, right? It was like the other stuff.
I watched it a bunch of times over because I feel like every time I saw someone be like, I did this thing, I would then watch the trailer in their tweet to look for the thing that they said they made in their tweet. Just like, I'm appreciate this.
Okay.
So I've seen it a shitload now.
Cool. All right. So I'm gonna run through this. Jump in, I guess, where I've missed stuff, because it sounds like you're more familiar with it than I am.
I paid more attention to the Warlock stuff.
Okay. Probably. Yeah. I mean, you would. I mean, right out the start of the trailer, they mentioned that the weapon crafting relic is on Mars. They've been indicating that some amount of this stuff is going to be back on Mars. So that's coming back out of the vault, or the darkness veil, whatever the pyramids did to Mars. It's back.
Just to interject, just as an idea that is a little bit of a mindfuck, I felt the same thing, and then someone on Twitter who's like a bit of a lore geek, none of the big lore geeks, was like, yeah, but you guys realize they've been saying for months that Savathun's throne world is built of different planets and different memories.
Right.
So is it Mars or is it Mars? And I was like, bro, now I'm going to sit here and be like, wait, is it Mars or is it Mars?
Yeah. Is this Mars real?
Just an idea to float by you.
I'm gonna park that and then probably lose my shit during the campaign. but yeah, we talked about it. There's some very fucking cool animations in this trailer. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I don't think those animations will actually be part of the crafting itself, but it looks real nice in a trailer. It's like things rotating and clicking into place. It's just, it sounds so good too. But let's run through all the new exotics that got shown, because there is some cool stuff and some really kind of gross stuff in here.
Oh, I'd erase that from my okay.
So first up is Grand Overture. I'm gonna go with like what the weapon's name was, and then the little like flavor text under it. Same for all the exotic armor and stuff. So it was slug launcher, charges full auto missiles.
Mm-hmm.
And the little clip was at like rapid firing. So when it says full auto missiles, I'm scared for what
Also,
that
it
does.
made a really delicious thwomp noise too. Like
good.
it had that amazing like Call of Duty. Well, like Call of Duty, what was it? Black Ops, I think. They had a kind of a launcher that made a really just like hearty like thwomp noise.
Okay.
And when I look for a launcher, I crave the nostalgia of just a good thwomp.
You close your eyes and listen for it. You're like, that's not it. Next.
That's not it. Yeah.
Next one up was Parasite, the worm launcher with increasing damage. I don't know what the increasing damage means. Is that like you fire more shots and the worms get larger? Like, what is happening? But it looked disgusting. It was like when you do, what is that strike where you've got the wizard that splits in two, the broodhold
or whatever it is.
Yeah, that little worm that you initially stick in the wall. Like it looked like one of those. Fucking disgusting.
Just from podcast context, I fucking hate the hive worms. I fucking hate them. I did not do some of the older stuff to do with the worm gods. There was like a strike or something where you fight a worm god or a quest at the end.
Zol, Will of the Thousands?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't do that for a long time. I just simply refused.
Yeah.
And then Alex had to drag me through it and I refused. And I always, whenever we load into a strike playlist and Broodhold comes up, the boys always just hear me go, no. Because I fucking hate those worms and I will, I don't care who you are, I will refuse to pick them up. I refuse to pick them up. I will sit in the Queen's throne room for 25 minutes. I am not picking that fucking worm up.
You get it. You touch the worm.
So I hate this gun.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, you're not touching the worms. You're launching them at other people.
I don't. They're near me. I don't care. They're creepy. They're crunchy. I hate them.
Yeah. Important lore clarification that is almost cliche at this point. The worms are not hive. They are like conduits for the darkness that corrupted the krill into the hive.
Yeah, because homie used to walk around with a dead fucking worm and it used to whisper to him.
Yeah.
Fuck out of here.
But yeah, that's why it's interesting to me that this weapon is called Parasite, because they operate as parasites. They require the host to kill in order to make the worm stronger. That's kind of the relationship.
I'm wondering
there.
if it's going to have like a spreading toxin pattern like necrotics, maybe.
Yeah, or if it's like a rampage style perk where you get kills and it makes it stronger, because that seems to fit thematically. Speaking of toxic, the next one, we've spoken about it before, is Osteostriga, the SMG that you get if you get the season
Thorn
pass.
SMG.
Basically, swarming projectiles trigger a toxic burst, lending more evidence to the theory that the next darkness subclass is that kind of toxic, infectious kind of thing that Thorn has and Necrotic Grip works on. So Osteostriga, Necrotic Grip, get ready to pair those together. That's going to be fucking disgusting.
A plague subclass.
Yeah. Yeah, one day.
With a witch, like the Italian doctor masks.
Oh,
as an exotic?
That'd be great.
You're welcome, Bungie.
They have said that once they do the reworks on the light subclasses to make them work like stasis, they're going to add more darkness subclasses. And the leading theory is that is the next one, is that kind of toxic plague infection kind of vibe.
Or as we call it, the icky.
Well, that's what you call it.
I call it the icky, or I just say I'm going to make things green.
Meckii with the icky,
Icky, No, when I get my necrotic grips on, I call it teeheeing with the boys. Because before I slap things, I teehee.
Yes.
Just to annoy you.
Mostly me. The next ones out of the gate in this trailer, we need to keep moving, were the
glaives.
The class-specific exotic glaives. There's been like bits and pieces of information about these between the trailer and the TWAB and articles with Game Informer that basically say in the first couple of missions in the Witch Queen campaign, you'll get access to the crafting system, and the first thing you'll craft is a class-specific exotic glaive. They had clips of these in the trailer. The Titan glaive, called Edge of Action, I like to edge on the edge of action myself, shoots protective shields. It looked like a mini Titan bubble that you're firing at your homies, so that's fun. The Warlock glaive, Edge of Intent. I intend to edge. Deploying a healing turret. I don't know if we really saw a clip of the turret itself, but support classes.
I think there was like a little blip, like just a little hint of it.
Yeah,
like just this 1 second.
Yeah, and then the Hunter glaive, Edge of Concurrence, the shittest name, is like tracking chain lightning, and it was like running along the ground and popping things off. That part looked kind of cool.
It's kind of strange to me that because the Titan glaive feels like a support thing. You're throwing bubs.
Yeah.
And then the Edge of Intent is a healing turret, so they feel very supporty. And then
Hunters are not support classes.
Hunters just being edgy little shitheads, just being like, nah, zaps.
Zappy. When has a Hunter ever played support? Are you kidding?
Hunter said, yo, you saw Cole in Infamous? Hold my shit. Here I come.
Hold my dick. You like Western movies? Check me out. Here's a big gun.
I'm gonna hit you with a stick. Yeah. That's the thing I'm excited for, is I just want to hit things with sticks. I don't care that they shoot. Yeah. I just want to hit things with the stick.
They got some cool perks. And then we saw some exotic armor. So we've got Titan has a chest piece, Warlock has gloves, Hunter it's a helmet. I'm trying to think back to what the exotics were that dropped with Beyond Light, whether they were all the same type of armor piece, like they were all chest, or if they were mixes. I don't remember.
I think it was mixed, because Warlock's got a helm, right?
Titan got Precious Scars, the helmet. I don't know. Anyway.
Oh yeah, that was that yucky scary one that I don't like, right?
Yeah, the one that relies on your teammates dying to be useful. So the Titan one, called Hoarfrost-Z, instead of a barricade, you get a stasis wall, and it looks cool as fuck when it pops up, because it's also got like, you know, a half-height section in front of your player character, so you can still shoot over it, but otherwise it's just a giant ice wall, and that thing looks cool. Warlock, we've got Osmiomancy gloves. Osmiomancy sounding like a reference to osmium, as in oryx, etc. Additional cold snap grenade with enhanced seeking, making everyone angry. I don't know how that's going to go. And then Hunter getting Blight Ranger helmet. Reflected projectiles deal increased damage, and the clip in the trailer actually looked pretty cool. They were like spinning the arc staff to reflect things in a crucible map, slinging rockets back at someone else. I don't know how useful that's going to be in most situations, but it's interesting. It
looks cool.
Well, it also adds to the utility of the arc staff for Hunters, which generally doesn't get a lot of use, from my understanding.
I just kind of appreciate that from what they've shown us so far, and it could change, that Bungie is very self-aware that the Hunters are edgy little edgelords, so they're doing everything they can to just make them look edgier, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm into it.
I love it. Just to confirm before, it looks like from memory and also from what I can see, the armor for Beyond Light was a pretty even mix of gloves and helms.
Was there 2 for each class?
It looked like it. So
Maybe there was like 2 for each, and some of them were
there
tied up in lost
was
sectors. 'Cause that was when
Atheris's
they-
Atheris Embrace, which was for hunters, Dawn Chorus, which was for warlocks,
Yeah.
Iceform Mantle for titans,
And
Mask of
Precious Scars. Yeah.
Mask of Baccharis, and Necrotic Grip and Precious Scars. So it seemed like a pretty even spread of
'cause I
gauntlets and helms.
I think one of them you got for finishing
So maybe
the
we'll get a
campaign.
bunch of chests this time as well.
Yeah, one of them you get for doing the campaign typically, and then the other one I think for Beyond Light was doing the lost sector.
Because I still have to get Dawn Chorus. Teehee.
Oh yeah,
That's my last exotic.
That's a fun one.
Dawn Chorus.
That's kind of fun. But that's kind of it for that weapons and gear trailer. It was like 30 seconds long. We've strung that out for a good like 10 minutes.
We also geeked out a little bit.
We did. So that brings us to
TWAB.
This week's incredibly meaty TWAB. Again, we shifted our schedule this week so that we could talk about this because it's fucking big and meaty.
I think it was like an hour before we were meant to record. DMG or Cosmo were like, yo, heads up,
6,000
big TWAB
words.
coming tomorrow.
Yes,
and I was like, fuck.
There was an image of like a word count and a page count, and I was like, oh, fuck, here we go again.
Hey, do you want to record tomorrow?
Yeah, also you were getting like a stupid amount of rainfall yesterday, so we were like, probably not worth the risk.
I love living in a tropical area next to the beach.
Yeah, it has got me like rethinking our recording schedule, but we'll talk about that after.
Because sometimes God says, spicy.
Anyway, this week's TWAB heavily focused on weapon crafting, some updates to kind of the weapon sandbox, some tuning generally that's happening. Again, I've got a lot of notes. So focusing now on weapon crafting, which they seem to drop a lot of information. It's not super clear how everything works, but this is kind of the most in-depth they've gone. It's in a place called the Enclave. I don't remember that as a location on Mars, but probably just a room tucked away somewhere.
Mars or Mars?
On Mars. As I spoke about before, it's sort of introduced to all players. It's not a season pass specific thing. Within the first 2 missions of the campaign, that gets us like introduced to the crafting system and the main keyword related to crafting, which is deep sight, which just sounds cool. Deep sight. So yeah, first crafting experience is building that first glaive, which we will apparently be given all the resources for, but then also there's a tutorial to kind of inform us of like, here's how you go get the resources to do more of this later.
Oh, the Lego book.
Yeah, similar to how they rolled out the transmog system, we were like, look, here's a few, and then here's the process to go get more, which, they went and changed later. But this doesn't sound too bad. It's mostly revolving around actually using the guns that you craft and to make them better and to extract things from them.
Look, to be honest, the transmog system probably operated as a bit of a test for this too.
Yeah.
So the fact that they learnt their mistakes early with the transmog system is probably going to help this.
Yeah, certainly informed some of the decisions with this. They did say that not all weapons and archetypes will be available at launch. They're going to add more over time, probably to make sure that they can keep up with trying to balance all of this. Because that would be a fucking nightmare. I can't imagine. It's already hard enough to balance this game with everything going on. So the main first requirement to go and do crafting is what they're calling patterns. So it's like a weapon pattern. So you got to earn those, and then they can be crafted anytime using the materials. After doing that first weapon craft for a given... no, it's actually doing the first craft, that first one that pops up in the campaign. Then randomly rolled weapons in the world that drop have a chance to drop with a new ability, and it looks like from screenshots it's in a new slot on the weapon, so it's not taking the place of other perks or mods or anything. But that new ability is called Deep Sight Resonance. Again, Bungie nailing the like proper nouns, just Deep Sight Resonance. Ugh. rolls off the tongue. But the example they used is of, like, dropping an auto rifle with Rampage that also has deep sight resonance. There's then an objective on that weapon, and if you complete that, you can extract the Rampage perk from the weapon itself and then use that in future crafting, which is kind of similar to, there's a system in Diablo 3 with Kanai's Cube where you can extract the power from a legendary item. It destroys the item, so I don't know if that's the case here, but you can then just have that as a passive perk in Diablo 3. But this sounds pretty good. It sounds like you drop a weapon, you like the perk on it, you use it a bunch, complete an objective. It looks like all the screenshots I've shown, at least, are just go and get a bunch of kills with that weapon, and you fill a meter, and then you can pluck the perk out and then put it on something else. So that seems reasonable. Having not seen it yet, it seems like it makes sense. They did kind of lay out that it's not a free-for-all, though, and like specifically, not all weapon patterns will work with all of the available traits, so you can't just like create some super cracked shotgun build, which is kind of how the roles work now, right? Like you take any given shotgun or auto rifle or bow, there's a limited set of perks they can drop with. So it's not going to be like, I'm trying to think of something really broken. I can't. But yeah, you get the idea. Is they're trying to restrict that possibility space so that they're not trying to balance just really broken shit constantly. Imagine like, what is it? Opening shot is the main perk on Fellwinters that makes it the biggest piece of shit in Crucible. Imagine putting that on anything else. No thanks.
Also, like, I'm glad that they did that, and I say this because I know what our friends are like. We've got some evil geniuses in our clan that if it was a free-for-all, you would just see some absolutely cooked combinations coming out of the brains of some of our team members.
I've already got some cooked combos with some stuff that we'll get to later around the weapon tuning, but yeah, this sounds like a huge system that they're just releasing with Witch Queen on top of reworking Void. Like there are so many changes. Yeah, just nuts. There's also the ability to enhance the traits and level the weapon up to an extent that they say is better than masterworking ever was. So you can take a weapon and like push it past what typically masterworking would give you on top of the weapon itself. So it's incentivizing that investment in a single weapon, that, you know, spending that time crafting that gun and working with it, enhancing it, building it up, which I kind of like. I remember early pitches around Destiny were like, every gun tells a story, and here's where you got this over here, but that never really had any meat behind it, right? Like, you can have a kill tracker on your gun, that's about it. There's nothing more than that.
Yeah, I feel like I got what they were aiming for, but with just your standard weapons, not so much. But I feel like a lot of people, especially with raid weapons, they remember when
they got it.
Yeah, I remember when both my Vexes dropped.
Fuck you. I remember when I dropped Taraba and literally no one else did. Yeah, stuff like the exotics is more where that stuff comes from.
Where you have those memories, yeah.
And like, I remember us in a rush trying to go through the Whisper and Outbreak heroic missions towards the tail end of Season of Arrivals, just like, we want to get it, we want to get the catalyst, and it was like, fuck, we've got to check in every week and not miss a week to get this done in time. That stuff I remember.
Yeah.
And always will. And yeah, to finish out with the crafting stuff, they said it will be possible to, you know, craft a weapon and then reshape it to you know, change aspects of it after you've crafted it. So it's not like you're having to dump a ton of resources to like do it all over again. I can't imagine that's going to be free, but it'll be in there. That's an option. So I'm very excited to see what that looks like. It's also very interesting that they said, look, first 2 campaign missions, you'll just get it and then you'll get to see it. So it's good that it comes early and we can just like start to really like theory craft about, oh, I think I could do this with this system, and then maybe 2 weeks later figure out whether or not you actually can by the time you've got the resources. So yeah, that's what we know of weapon crafting. Couple of quick bits. They mentioned something called mementos. Not a lot of details on what that actually is. Kind of refer to it as appearance customization and activity-specific trackers. So maybe it's like, Vanguard trackers for like strike kills or strike completion, something like that. I'm wondering if they end up being something like, like weapon charms that you see in things like Call of Duty, where it's like a key ring hanging off the side of your gun.
Oh my god, that would be so fun.
Yeah, there's a lot they could do with something like that. And the fact that it's called
Little
mementos
key ring.
sounds like something small and kind of, yeah.
Yeah. I get that energy from that word too, because like when you think of a memento, it tends to be like a small,
Yeah.
like photos or like a silly little souvenir or
but
jewelry
also
or something.
trying to like combine that with the ornament system for certain weapons. Trying to make that compatible would be difficult because some of those ornaments drastically change the weapon model. So we'll have to wait and see what that looks like.
A little phone charm hook on the butt of the gun.
Yeah, okay.
Little phone charms, like what you get from gachapon machines.
How about a tiny little Cade's head?
I would simply throw it away.
Yeah, I don't care for it.
I just alienated half the community.
Goodbye. I'm not a Cade stan. They did mention that certain exotic weapons will be compatible with the crafting system, albeit to a limited extent. Specifically, Osteostriga and the exotic class glaives. They basically said, once you find the patterns for them, you can take them into that crafting system, but that's more about fine-tuning them, making small adjustments to kind of their perk or their stat blocks, but not like, I'm going to go craft an Osteostriga that has all these busted perks on top of its toxic aspect. So again, we'll have to wait and see what that looks like, but that's very interesting that they're allowing exotics into the system. I don't know how far they'll take that. I hope not too far.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've already got some scuffed combinations for the exotics I use regularly, so.
Then there was a huge block on weapon tuning, weapon stat changes, things like that. I am in no way going to cover all of this because I
was just scrolling to see all of it.
Dude, there are like again, we had this a few TWABs ago with I think it was the one where they announced the orb changes that everyone got freaked out about. There's just a lot of numbers in here.
And then it became nothing.
Yeah. But there's like, talk of damage scalars and like percentage drop-offs for this and that. And like, that's not worth getting into. There's a couple I'm going to pull out because they're interesting to me. But I'll get to that towards the end. They clarified, so we used to have pinnacle weapons, right? Your recluses, your mountaintops. They've finally come out and said, like, we're not doing that anymore because it fucking broke the meta. Whatever the meta actually is at any point in time. But like, it became the thing where like, if you're not running recluse in PvP, you're probably dead. And they don't want that because it's no fun. So things like Adored, Salvage's Salvo, was it Null Composure? They refer to those as pursuit weapons. They kind of spoke about them as being roughly 70% of what they would call a god roll for that weapon archetype. So like Adored is good as a sniper, but there are better snipers. And Adored is also they're all also like fixed perk rolls. Whereas you could randomly drop something that has a better perk combo for that type of gun. Next season's pursuit weapon is a shotgun called the Reckless Endangerment, which I'm wicked into as a gun title. That's very cool. It has a new perk. Yeah. It has a new perk called Steady Hands, which gives you a handling boost after a kill, and it will also have Snapshot, so basically fuck PvP. Sounds like a nightmare.
Oh,
Okay. So that's kind of a known thing, right? We've had pursuit weapons before. Into that, now we get to all the interesting new shit that they're doing with like the weapon drops. So we've got a thing called origin traits. So new drops for weapons out of different activity pools. So things like Nightfall or strike-based weapons, Crucible weapons, Gambit weapons. They'll have there's new traits associated with where they dropped from that are kind of built into how that mode or that activity plays. So the example that I quite like is one called Stunning Recovery for weapons that drop out of Nightfalls, which is stunning a champ partially refills the mag, triggers health regen, and improves recovery for short duration. That's so good for anything to do with champs.
Yeah.
And so there's like, I don't know, they listed out like 6 or 7 of these things. It's worth going to look at those to give you an idea of sort of where they're going with these weapon drops, but a very cool idea. Next one, weapon foundries. If you're someone who nerds out about like the different weapon manufacturers in Destiny and how they're different from one another, boy, is this the time for you to fucking get into this game. So weapons from those different manufacturers will now have a foundry origin trait based on the typical style of that manufacturer's weapons, right? So the example I've got here is Veist, V-E-I-S-T. Is it Veist? Veist?
Veist.
Veist sounds right. So the example they had there was Veist Stinger, which is a chance on damage to partially refill the mag. So it's kind of like a subsistence, but you don't have to get the kill. It's a chance on damage. And I think those weapons typically have quite high fire rates, and so that will be like and like the stat blocks for the weapons from those manufacturers will, fit into those kind of pigeonholes. That's going to be really interesting. I've never actually thought that much about the differences between the manufacturers because it hasn't mattered.
It's a pocket of lore that they like. I appreciate they went that deep and they paid attention to something like that, but people have never really been pushed to consider it. So it's only the deep lore. I use this word lovingly because one of our fire team members, one of our fire team members is a deep lore nerd, and it's just like I like how they're doing things, and as they roll stuff out, they're just like, hey, have you considered looking at this lore? Because it's going to be relevant now, so you should probably go back because people worked real hard on those lore entries, so you should go read them.
I think the last time I thought about weapon manufacturers was Dead Man's Tale when that dropped, because it's a Tex Mechanica weapon, and that's like last word. It's typically like big shots, big damage, slow fire, and Dead Man's Tale is kind of that, except when you get the perk going.
The names and the energy and the aesthetic of all of like Tex Machina's weapons are
big cowboy, big gun.
with obviously a kind of steampunk feel. So
a little bit.
It's like,
so they're really leaning into that shit, which I find really interesting, really cool. What else did I have here around the Foundry stuff? The weapon perks for those weapons will also lean into the Foundry's identity. I don't know if they had any examples of that, but again, they're just steering into the skid with this, which is very cool. Kill trackers, previously only something you get once you get to like Masterwork rank 6 and above, I think. They're now just present on all weapons that shipped in Forsaken or later. And they said exotics that came out before Forsaken will get them added later. There's probably just some technical reason why they couldn't do those now. But that's kind of cool because, like, kill trackers are nice for guns that use all the time, but also they're kind of walking away from masterworking weapons being fucking needed because they're taking that orb generation thing out of the masterwork status. So still not 100% sure what the point of masterworking weapons is going to be, other than the extra like stat bonuses that you get. So I imagine we'll find out more, but that kind of takes a little bit of the heat off that stuff. The weapon mod switching will now be like the armor mod switching, where it's free and instant. The ping pong tournament next door is fucking going off. I don't know if that's coming through the microphone, but I can hear it.
It's heating up.
It's literally outside my fucking window. The special weapon ammo economy in Crucible is getting tighter. I think they basically said if someone dies and they drop a green brick, you're only ever going to get one out of it, unless in certain cases with certain weapons where it makes sense to get more. That's pretty nice because it will sort of limit how long some of those players can run a kill streak up. They also like pointed out that like you'll only drop green ammo if you actually had any on you when you died. So I don't know if that's a problem where holding an empty green weapon means that you're just going to drop a green brick. I've never noticed because I don't really play with green ammo weapons in the Crucible that much because it scares me to have that few bullets.
Yeah.
I like the infinite ammo. Thank you. Yeah, and then everything from then on, like I said, was kind of the real big nerd weapon stat change stuff. But the stuff I'm going to pull out because they're nostalgic for me. So across the board, pulse rifles are having a comeback. They are getting a flat plus 10 damage bonus against miners. So get ready to clear rooms with your pulse rifles. But also, exotic primary and trace rifles are getting a plus 40% against miners. So if you think about your exotic pulse rifles for a second, right? They're all primary ammo, I think. I don't think there's a green ammo pulse.
I think most of them are top slot, yeah.
Yeah. You've got your bad jujus. You've got your outbreak perfected. You've got your graviton lance, which is a void weapon, still primary ammo. Imagine them doing what I'm pretty sure is a plus 50% against miners. And then bad juju, string of curses. It's basically rampage on steroids. Yes, good point. I forgot that one. You think about outbreak perfected with the nanites, right? They're going to get that damage bonus, I'm pretty sure. Graviton lance with its explosion. That's going to be nasty for clearing rooms.
Digimwing, but that's more of a PvP gun.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Because Digimwing has harsh truths, which is like 5-round burst, and then if you kill someone near you, you get a health regen.
Something like that. Yeah. But I'm thinking back to like, when we first all started playing Destiny, I would have called myself a bad juju main. Because I was all about just refilling that super bar by clearing ads, and I got real fucking good at it. And boy, am I excited to do that again. But also, I am now what I would call a sunshot main, and that is now benefiting from a plus 40% against miners because it is a primary exotic weapon. Combining that with Path of Burning Steps to get extra weapon damage on solar kills, I'm going to be setting rooms on fire.
The messenger.
Yeah. That's only a plus 10 because it's a non-exotic.
Yeah, but like I was just thinking of messenger with plus 10 because it already kind of slaps. So.
Yeah. I think they also said something about making the head seeker perk on aggressive pulse rifles, was one of the particular pulse rifles, actually work properly because it doesn't currently. And I have a messenger with head seeker, and I don't know what it's supposed to feel like. It's the only gun I've got that has that perk. But exotic pulse rifles are coming back. I'm into it in a big way.
Same.
So for you, support class player, Lumina is getting some boosts. Might be worth giving that another crack. Get the catalyst, shoot out the healing bullets.
Yeah, over the last couple of days, I've been rolling Lumina and Boots of the Assembler. Ooh. And just being a cracked out little healer, just throwing orbs.
Cracked out in a cave.
Rainbow mixed with Rodney.
That's it. There's a whole bunch of extra like perk changes in terms of like weapon perks. Some perks are being pulled out of rotation because they're just kind of not great, and then some of them are getting tweaks here and there. But the last one that I find really fucking interesting.
I saw that too.
Eager Edge is getting less edgy because of a fear of people breaking into the raid early, which happened with DSC.
Which was annoying.
And leaking shit that was actually pretty cool when you saw it for the first time.
Yeah, I had to uninstall Twitter for a couple of weeks there.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm really fucking glad that Eager Edge is getting its edge blunted, because the amount of times where I've been, I don't know, running Dares of Eternity or running something where someone's just like hit me with that friendly fire swipe and it flings you into a wall and kills you.
Yeah.
Man, have I reported some people for that. It's fucking toxic. Get out of here.
It's only fun with your homies. Don't do it to strangers.
Yes, exactly. So I'm fine with that. Eager Edge can fuck off for all I care. It's fine. That's kind of it from the TWAB. You didn't get a chance to look at it? You haven't got anything to pull in here?
No. So a lot of my reactions to this have been genuine, on the spot.
And I've had to talk a lot, and I'm fine with that. I wrote all the notes, like I said, a couple of hours ago, so it's fresh.
I did the last big episode, so it's fine.
The last little bit, there was a Game Informer article interviewing with creative director James Tsai, TSAI. I hope I'm saying that right. I would describe that more as a vibes interview. There were not so many big like reveals and hints and things like that, but a couple of things that stood out.
I was just going to say, I am really appreciating that with every big info dump at the moment, we're almost getting like an accompanying article, and it's from different people in the company, and I'm really enjoying that.
I did think that when I was going through it. I was like, oh, these hit at kind of the same time. They just did this, it feels like.
They did it nice. With Joe.
Yes. But yeah, a couple of quotes, because I think they're kind of setting Witch Queen up nicely here. So James Tsai saying, we've actually been talking about this as a mystery, talking about the campaign. The player fantasy is one of being like a psychic detective this time around. That's dark. You're going into this uncertain destination, this creepy, beautifully grotesque, twisted wonderland kind of place. What's the mystery here? What can you trust? Fuck off.
I wouldn't. It's a heavy read, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone listening. But I wonder if maybe some of the people in the writing team have read Brian Lumley's Necroscope.
I've not,
because that is about a psychic detective who can talk to the dead, and they go to another planet where they call them vampires or vampires. And it's like a psychic race. It's very hard. It's just neck level fucking sci-fi bullshit. It's Brian Lumley.
Okay.
But like when they said psychic detectives and you go to this like gross but beautiful kind of mysterious place, I was like, that sounds like Necroscope.
Okay. Maybe I'll look into it. Yeah, I think they've mentioned on the Bungie website advertising Witch Queen about a new 6-player match-made activity, but that doesn't say what it's called. This interview does.
That's exciting.
It's called Wellspring.
Like the perk?
There's a weapon perk called Wellspring.
I use Wellspring quite often, actually.
Yeah.
It's useful for how I play.
I don't think they've said anything about what actually is involved in it, but the website kind of hints at like, piercing the mystery, unsolving the whatever. Looking into the lies and the deceit and psychic detective shit. Generally, the tone of this and other things they've put out recently give me the impression that they are swinging for the absolute fences with this campaign.
Wait.
It sounds very much like they're just putting a lot of effort in on the story and the world building and the general vibe of the whole thing.
I'm excited because it was literally last episode where we said we want to be wrecked by this campaign. We want our hearts to be broken. We want those gut-wrenching moments. We want closure. And just hearing him say, we're swinging for the fences. Like, we are going all in on this campaign.
That was more how I'm reading it. He didn't actually say those exact words.
Just being like, we are throwing the kitchen sink at this kid. Like, we're throwing everything plus the kitchen sink at this. I'm just like, good.
And that first
I hope this ruins me.
Yeah, in that first week when I'm grinding to get levels and I have to play the campaign 3 times through on different characters, I'm ready to get fucked up 3 different ways. Let's go.
Yeah. I want to cry every time.
Yeah. Spoke about the legendary version of the campaign a little bit. Basically giving the impression that obviously it's harder, with probably, you know, like the modifiers that you get for things like high level nightfalls, that sort of stuff probably being elements, but also saying that it scales based on the size of your fire team. So
fun.
you can definitely solo it, but it's similar to the Diablo 3 multiplayer, where as soon as you add an extra person to your party, it pops up this little message to say, like, the creatures are now stronger. Like, they basically said, the more people that you're playing with, the harder the shit will be.
Raise your booty.
Yeah, hold on to your butts. You brought friends, so did we.
I love that.
Yeah. So glaives, right? They're talking about this as a new weapon archetype. When they first started mentioning it, I had this thought of, I don't remember the last time they introduced a new type of weapon. And this article tells me it was bows.
It was super early in D2 from memory.
Yeah. But it is also the only first-person melee weapon, which, when you think about it, yeah, true. But I hadn't thought about it until he said it.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing.
Oh.
Unless you count the Titan's little throwing hammer on the mid-tree, but that's...
Oh, Hemis for the demis. Interesting.
But yeah, they also kind of said, like, the glaive is targeted more at working through enemies one at a time, so kind of like lunging through, chaining them together, and there's benefits to doing that. But it's not like a sword where you can just come in and swipe a room empty. So it's more like stabby.
That I'm gonna get Kingdom Hearts in Destiny? Because that's how the Keyblade kind of feels. It's not really a burst thing, it's a 1x1 clear thing, and you can chain combos and stuff. Hell yeah.
That sounds like what they were saying.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Keyblade time.
And that, after me talking probably for most of an hour straight, brings us to the end of my wall of notes from at least what we saw this week in terms of announcements and interviews and all that. I'm going to take a drink of water, please.
This has been your weekly info dump with chillybin.
Yeah, like, I don't want this show to become just that, because, like, that's not fun for us.
Yeah.
But
we are here
a few weeks out from expansion, this is the kind of shit we have to... This is what we have available, right? Because there's not like there's big stuff happening in the game at the moment.
Yeah, not a lot of movement in lore, nothing like that.
Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot in the game. I've still got my checklist to do before the end of the season. I've done nothing.
Savathun's still just vibing somewhere.
She's still in that block. I don't know.
Waiting for Exorcist. I think we shouldn't theorize, but I'm still thinking that the end of season event or / end of Beyond Light life cycle event is probably going to be the exorcism. Yeah,
I mean, that's been the whole seasonal narrative, is Mara doing the ley line shit to work out how to exorcise the worm. That's disgusting. I heard it. So yeah, that feels like kind of the conclusion, but I don't know if Savathun coming out of the crystal is the end of this arc or the beginning of Witch Queen, like that opening to the campaign. I don't know, because I'm also trying to imagine what they would do for someone coming to Destiny for the first time, or a relapsed player. Like, are they coming in to watch this come out of the crystal? Or is it already out and it's just like, boom, here you go, here's the big bad? Like,
it's a big moth lady.
Yeah, the 21-foot tall big stepper.
Get wrecked, Lady D.
Yeah, who is she? She's a child. She's a toddler.
I've noticed too, with a lot more of, they're starting to, like with this week's TWAB, they dropped some more wallpapers and some more 4K screenshots stuff, and there's more of Savathun in there.
Okay.
And like, I know it's been
that fucking gear trailer, I forgot at the end of it, Savathun just throwing an overbomb.
Yeah.
Fuck. I saw that and I was like, nah, this is like a full Savathun, just like, yoink, take this.
I need to find who did it, but someone took that shot and then she throws it, and then it cuts to a warlock, and then it cuts to the old vine of, I do that. I think I laughed for like 20 minutes.
I think I'm about to.
I was like, this is why I love the Destiny community.
Yeah, it was like
if you're tired of negative Destiny discourse, just go to r/Destiny memes right now.
Oh, yeah.
There's some really
there was like
excellent shit.
the worm launcher exotic. Not like an hour after that thing dropped, someone had edited that so that it was launching baby fallen plushies, like the things that are behind you, just like funk funk.
Like, stop it. Then there was also the Eric Andre, where it shows like just a normal rocket launcher, and then him going, "But what if it was worms?" It's Parasite,
True.
and then him like cheering.
True though. Oh man.
Yeah. If the normal Destiny subreddit bums you out and you don't want to be spoiled, avoid raid secrets, avoid Destiny 2, go to Destiny memes.
No, let me tell you about my new favorite, low sodium Destiny. That place is just so nice.
I've been in hysterics on Destiny memes for the last 2 days with just how quickly they're churning shit out.
We are in a gold rush.
I geek out over, hi, my name's Meckii. I'm kind of weird and I like bugs, in case you guys haven't guessed.
But not worms.
Surprise, the esoteric ass bitch likes bugs.
I'm not like other girls.
Your average 30-year-old old girl, okay?
I change my hair every week.
It does seem very cliche, but I was kind of disappointed that they went with this. But Savathun seems to be going in her design is very much the Death's Head moth.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of kind of actually, it's kind of like the Death Card surprise. I also like Harry. It's kind of like the Hawk moth and Death's Head moth. You hear of that and you think it's a omen.
Right.
But like the Death Card, depending on its circumstances, it's actually a positive thing if you see one in some circumstance.
Gotcha.
So I thought that was really, really interesting that for her wings and her body design and also some of her patterning is very reminiscent of a hawk's, like a hawk moth or a Death's Head moth.
Sure. Okay.
Because it's like she could be signaling the end or death, or depending on the context, she could also be signaling rebirth. One of those things where it's like, it's also indicative of rebirth in some cultures. So I just thought that was really interesting looking at the 4K wallpapers on Twitter this morning.
Yeah.
It's got hawk head wing.
What? No head? Definite head. So that's kind of it for this week. I think I've seen DMG himself saying that, like, you know, TWABs from here on out, not going to be these big meaty bitches, which makes sense. You know, we got 3 weeks.
Some surprises.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll see some more, if anything, clarification on like the orb weapon conversation. Because I don't know that, as much as they said there's going to be helmet mods to make that happen, they haven't said much more than that. But also people aren't really whinging about it anymore.
I think too, they're also planted the seeds for hype.
Yeah.
Now the community, just like Beyond Light, the community are going to continue the hype train because they've given us enough to speculate on and enough for us to geek out over and theorize.
Case in point, we've been recording for over an hour.
Yeah.
So, Exhibit A, us. Yeah, we will try to contain it, I guess, for a few weeks, and then rest in peace my schedule when this thing finally drops.
I do some fun, goofy episodes between now and Witch Queen. Maybe.
Yes. Us both racing to finish our checklists, and
I've done my checklist except for one thing.
You have.
I just got to do all my seasonals now. But I am literally just a smidgen of 1351. Just a smidge. I'm very close to capping out.
What do you mean? The cap's 1350.
You can get to 1351.
No.
Can't you?
No, gear score will get you to 1350, then it's artifact on top of that.
Well, yeah, artifact on top of that. So
if you were at 1351, you would have a very low season rank.
Oh, I mean power rank.
Yeah, okay. I don't think that's
tired.
Yeah.
No, but I'm very like very close to like doing the thing for once in a season.
Nice,
actually.
right at the end. Classic.
Because I do it every season.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing a day before the raid grind. So.
Yeah, God, please don't do that again. That was a nightmare to behold. I tried to help you with some of that and it was rough.
Everyone on day one being like, yeah. So I got like 2 hours sleep and I'm like, what the fuck is sleep?
Just like, oh, cool. Our support player is the most underleveled person in the group. It's fucking sick.
I was though, so it was fine.
Yeah.
But like, I went to bed at 8:30 and then got up at like 10 and then kept grinding just to get those last couple out.
You did. God. All right. We gotta plan that day one shit.
DSC day one, fucking 7 energy drinks in. I was vibing.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing you stopped drinking those. That's bad.
Look, depending on how the week goes for Witch Queen or the day one raid, I might break that sobriety.
The thing is, like, you've been off them, so one might do the trick.
Might also push me over the edge.
Yeah, you're right.
Give me an embolism too.
All right, let's get out of here, away from that. Not touching that. This has been another episode of Erico Blueberry. We will be back again next week. I'm not sure what we're talking about. I'm not sure what day we'll record. Maybe it's back to Thursday nights. Thank you to the boys for showing up. Thank you to you, Meckii, for showing up, and to you for watching and or listening. I can't govern how you consume our content, but I can ask you to please hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the etc. Tell a friend. Pre-order the Witch Queen, or don't. It actually doesn't matter. But get into Destiny. It's a fun game.
Tell your mom.
If you've made it past an hour of us, and now I'm telling you to get into Destiny, I'm pitching to the wrong crowd. Just don't be shitheads.
Be nice. Yeah. Please.
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 I'm not saying that. Okay. We're going to go. I'm going to go edit. And we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.